start this session. Let's talk about the standard for program management. And I want to tell you about the changes. The changes that has gone is about the structural changes into the standard for program management. And if you compare it with the fourth edition of the standard for program management, then I will tell you that, you will see that only 10 to 15% of additional changes that has been made into the revised standard. Mostly, there are the structural changes that I could see, the structural changes that has been made. The fourth edition had around 8 chapter in the standard for program management, and now the fifth edition has roughly around 4 chapter only. So what PMI has done is the individual chapters related to the each domains, such as strategic alignment, benefit management, stakeholder engagement, which were individual chapter. Now those are uh, combined and grouped under chapter number 3 into this standard for program management. And they have added a new chapter, chapter number 2, which talks about the program management principles. And this is the biggest contribution that has been made in this revised standard. So though the 8 new principles of managing program has been added, and these principles are put above the 5 program management performance domains. Now, friends, let's talk about what are these 8 new program management performance domains. So the first performance domain of program management that has been added to chapter number 2 of standard for program management is about stakeholder. And you may also see stakeholder is also a domain in the standard for program management, as well as it's a principle of program management. So friends, how will you understand the difference, or why to have separate principles of as a stakeholder, as a principle, if we already have a full domain in program management which talks about stakeholder? So friends, first of all, let's understand the definition of principles. And so principles are the behavioral aspect of program management, that how you behave, how you um, do your program management work. So if I talk about the stakeholder, my principle of stakeholder is, whenever I think of any stakeholder, I think of adding value to my stakeholder. I think of satisfying my stakeholders, because the stakeholders has invested in your products. The stakeholders have uh, emotionally connected with your product and services, and these stakeholders are going to be positively or negatively impacted by your program. So you should have a principle which should focus on adding value. That should be your that should be your you know principle of program, stakeholder principle in your program management. Now, if adding value, satisfying stakeholder, if these are the some of the attributes of your stakeholders, then how is it different from the stakeholder engagement performance domain in program management? So let me tell you, friends, stakeholder engagement as a performance domain, it talks about how you're going to identify the stakeholder, how you're going to analyze the stakeholder, how you're going to build a relationship with the stakeholder, how you're going to resolve stakeholder conflict so that the stakeholder continue to deliver value and the program able to achieve its end objective. So the domain is more focused on more uh, tactical aspect of stakeholders, whereas principles are more focused on the the behavioral aspect. First, you should have a principle that you need to add value for your stakeholder. Your stakeholder gets maximum returns from your program management efforts, and your stakeholders um, are satisfied with the engagement you are going to have throughout the program life cycle. So stakeholder principles are very high level, very behavioral aspect, whereas stakeholder engagement domains talks about the how you're going to address the stakeholder needs, expectations, how you're going to through the stakeholder engagement going to deliver the value for them and ultimately for your performing organization. So that's the first principle. Let's also talk about the second principle of program management. The second principle of program management is the benefit realization. And again, friends, we also have benefit management as a performance domain. So if I have to tell you what is the difference between benefit realization as a principle or benefit management as a performance domain. Now, benefit realization as a principle, as a program manager, your focus should be that program should able to deliver benefit for your stakeholder. Program should able to deliver, the value for the stakeholder. And benefit realization is more about, not just delivering a product or services, but it's about the end objective behind investing into the product and services. So benefit realization focuses on, as a principle, you program manager should ensure that the your uh, program able to realize maximum benefit and should have maximum return on investment. So that's a benefit realization principle. Whereas benefit management performance domains, as a performance domains, is talk about how part of realizing the benefit. It's a how part that what are the benefit you're going to deliver, how you're going to baseline your benefit, how you're going to deliver the benefit, how you're going to transition the benefit to the beneficiaries, to the stakeholders, to the receiving organization, and how the receiving organization will able to sustain those benefits for a long term on a continuous basis. So that's the focus of benefit management as a domain. So I hope, friends, you understand benefit realization as a principle versus benefit management as a domain. So principle is the behavioral aspect of the program, that when you initiating a program, you must have a principle in mind that you are delivering benefit, not just a product or services. So that's a second principle. The third principle we're going to talk about is synergy. Now, synergy is a very important principle in program management. Now, synergy basically means it's a synergy between program team. And how will you able to generate synergy? You'll able to generate synergy between program team through collaboration domain. So there's a new domain that has been added that's called collaboration. And by collaborating with different program teams, through the collaboration you're able to generate synergy. And once you have synergy between the team, the team, the overall value will be more than the sum of individual team in your program. So synergy is a very important principle that ensure that all the internal or external stakeholders, including your team, they have a common vision toward program. They support the program for realizing maximum value for that performing organization. So synergy is a very important principle, and you can generate synergy using collaboration work. Collaboration is a very important performance domain that has been added into the standard for program management. Another principle which we will talk about is team of teams. Now, this is the fourth principle of program management. And friends, see, in your program, you have multiple projects, multiple subsidiary program, and each project has a team who is delivering specific component of your program solution. So there are multiple project team, there are subsidiary program which are program performed under your primary program, those subsidiary program team. So there are team of teams in your program. Now, when you have this team of teams in your program, it's very important that you understand how you're going to build the relationship between the team. So the team of teams principles talks about building the relationship. It talks about, how the team thinks from the end objective of a program and how each team contribute to the overall success of that program. And as a program manager, you should follow this principle that each project team which is part of your program, they are aligned to the overall program success. They are contributing to the end program objectives. So team of team is a very, very important principle. It talks about how to manage relationship between the different team so that the resources can be optimized, so that the, you know, each project contributes to the common program objectives of realizing the benefit for the stakeholders and the the performing organization or the funding organization or the client organization. So that's very, very important, friends. So team of team is a very important principle. Let's talk about the fifth principle of program management. Friends, some of you who have just joined, we were talking about the 8 new principles of program management. We spoke about synergy as a principle. We spoke about a team of team as a principles. We spoke about benefit realization principle. We spoke about stakeholder as a principle. And now let's talk about another very important principle, which is change. Now, change is a very important principle in program management. In fact, program is an approach to change organizational current operational state. If you have to change organizational current operational state, and friends, if you do not change the organization current operational state, maybe the organization will never able to realize its vision, not never able to deliver its goals and objective. Since organization strategies are changing, since organization goals and objectives are evolving, so these evolving goals and objectives are delivered through program by initiating change in their current operational state. And program management standards explicitly says that program builds new operational state. It is also called outcome. And by building a new operational state, you can maximize the benefit for your organization and you can deliver organizational goals and objective. So change is a very important principle. And when you defining this principle in your program management practices, you should understand that how the change will, you know, deliver a new outcome for the organization and how it will, contribute to the organization's success. So change as a principle, you have to define, the value you trying to deliver through this change. So change is the very important principle, and program is an approach to deliver change in the organization. Now let's talk about the sixth principle, which we will talk about risk. Now, risk is a principle in program management. Friends, you know, risk as a principle, program management practitioner should understand that if you are able to proactively deal with your risk, then the program will not face issues, because the program face issues because we don't handle risk. think over it that even in your personal life, even in your personal program, if you able to uh, identify risk, able to address the risk proactively, then you will not see any issues in your program or even in your personal life. So risk as a principle should be a you should understand that risk have to be proactive, defining your risk culture, your risk appetite. Risk appetite can be defined by the threshold. So you need to risk is a very important principle in program management, and you should able to very clearly, most importantly, you need to understand that risk have to be proactive, not reactive. You should not, after you have identified a risk, you should not wait for the risk to happen and then apply the risk response strategies. Rather, as soon as you have identified a risk, you should able to immediately address that risk. That's very, very important, friends. And risk principles talks about defining your risk, organizational risk culture, organizational risk appetite, defining the threshold, so that the risk could be the delay in benefit realization. That could be your threshold, plus minus 2 months. Or it could be risk in terms of budgeting risk. That means you may go over budget by few thousand, or you may able to deliver the program under few thousand. So defining that tolerances, that what is your appetite which you can accept. So risk, but most importantly, as a principle, risk talks about the proactive approach of defining these risk in your program, and proactive approach of addressing those risks, whether it's a negative risk which are threat or a positive risk which are opportunities. So risks are very important in program management to deal, so that we can realize the benefits. The next principle we will talk about is, let's say, governance. Governance is another important principle. And friends, you have governance as a performance domain, as well as governance as a principle in program management. Now, as I said, principle means the behavioral aspect of governance. So as a program management practitioner, as a program management professional, governance talks about how you're going to manage the program performance, how you're going to conduct the performance reviews. So the governance principle should focus on ensuring that the program throughout its life cycle remain aligned to the organization strategic goals and objective. Because during any time in the program life cycle, if program is not aligned to organization strategic goals and objective, maybe that program should immediately be considered for disinvestment, for termination, because that program is not contributing to the organizational success. Maybe it is contributing to individual stakeholder, maybe it is contributing to the some people, some stakeholder, some group, but ultimately the program should contribute to the organizational strategic goals and objective. So the governance as a performance domain The governance as a performance domain talks about, you know, how the program will continue to remain aligned to the organization strategy, and how the program will adjust changes which are either because of internal influences within the enterprise or because of external influences within the enterprise. So governance talks about adjusting to changes. Governance talks about, reviewing the performance. Governance talks about, aligning the program to the organization strategy and objectives throughout its life cycle. This is the principle. Performance domain talks about the different activities through which you will able to, achieve all the principle or all the behavioral aspect of governance. So the performance domain of governance talks about, clearly defining the phase gate review meeting, clearly defining the audit processes, because audits are also governance activity. Governance domains talks about, who will authorize the new component, who will authorize the closure of a program. So, you know the performance domains more talks about the tactical aspect of doing the governance, whereas the governance as a principle talks about the um, the behavioral aspect of the performance domain. So friends, I hope you understood these um, principles of uh, program management. One last principle I want to talk about. I already spoke about stakeholder as a performance, as a principle. I spoke about benefit realization as a principle. I spoke about synergy. I spoke about team of teams. I spoke about change as a principle. I spoke about risk as a principle and governance. Also, I want to talk about leadership. Now, leadership is again a very important principle. Now, friends, program manager must have a leadership skills. He must have, even if you see uh, the PMI talent triangle, it talks about the power skills. The power skills, constitute the leadership aspect. So, as a program manager, leadership is a very important principle. What is your leadership style, which should, able to realize maximum benefit for the organization and its stakeholder? So, leadership principle should talk about maybe your servant leadership qualities. Leadership principle should talk about your uh, you know the way you're going to handle the team of teams, the way you going to generate synergy, the way you're going to you know handle the changes. So leadership is a principle, is about how you're going to deal with your stakeholder, how you're going to handle team of teams. Leadership is about maybe situational leadership, servant leadership, and ensuring that the program manager support the team's aspiration, meets the stakeholder needs and expectations through his leadership qualities. And leadership qualities such as active listening, leadership qualities such as, you know, focusing on the stakeholder needs in the program, expectations from the program. So that's a leadership is very important principle in program management. So friends, we spoke about the 8 new principles. I also want to talk about how this new chapter, how this chapter number 2, which is added to the 5th edition of Standard for Program Management, how it is going to impact the exam. So if you are aspiring to become PgMP certified, what is there any direct weightage to this chapter? So friends, no, there is no direct weightage to this chapter, which is principle, chapter number 2. You may not see direct question or, from this chapter. These principles is, these questions are around the other program management performance domain, linked to that particular domain. So if you understand these principles clearly, you should able to understand the exam scenario, exam questions, and you'll able to answer that. So this chapter does not have any specific weightage in the exam. That's what I want to tell you. One more thing I would like to tell you, friends, there's a collaboration domain that has been added earlier. Until 4th edition, there are 5 domain, but now there are 6 domain in the standard for program management. And the 6th domain is collaboration. It's a very important domain. And it talks about collaborating with the different component team. Collaboration domains focuses on collaboration with other 5 performance domain. So collaboration talks about 2 aspects. First, it talks about how all the 5 domain are collaborated with each other, how they support each other. See, remember, you can't perform one domain activities in silos without keeping in mind the other domains. Let's take an example. When you identify the benefits, which is a benefit management domain activities, you have to collaborate with the stakeholder. You have to identify the stakeholder, analyze the stakeholder, and with the help of stakeholder, you have to identify the benefit. So collaboration talks about how one domain activity can be performed better, and how, when there is a collaborative focus of a program manager between this domain, how the overall program success can be realized. So collaboration talks about the interaction between the 5 domain. Collaboration also talks about the collaboration between the different teams. And as I said some time back, through collaboration, you will able to generate synergy. Synergy principle is implemented through collaboration. And if your team is collaborating toward a common program deliverables, which is the common benefit for the organization, that's the, in fact, very important aspect of program, that individually, if the component are performed, maybe program will, but if the stakeholder are collaborated, then you know then the overall component can realize maximum benefit than the individual component can do for the organization. So it's a very, very important that collaboration helps maximizing the benefit, which may not be possible if the components are delivered in silos without program management effort. So collaboration between team is very important. And again, if I tell you, friends, that no direct, there are no direct question, there are no direct question in the weightage for this chapter as well. If you see the revised examination content outline, still it talks about the 5 domains. And so collaboration as a chapter does not have specific weightage. But through this domain, the program management can realize the benefits. And that is the value addition the PMI has done through this revised standard. So you may not see a direct question on collaboration, but collaboration questions are maybe aligned to the other performance domain activities, because that's the aspect of collaboration. That's the purpose of collaboration. Collaboration is all about ensuring that the program able to realize maximum benefit, which is not possible by managing these components individually. So this is a very, very important domain. So friend, this is the major changes. As I also said that at the beginning of this live session, that there is a structural changes that has been made into standard for program management. Chapter number 2 has been added, which talks about the 8 new principles of program management. Or chapter number 3 combines the individual chapter of performance domain, which was there in the 4th edition. And there is an inclusion of collaboration as a domain. Now, if you ask me, also I would like to briefly talk about the examination content outline. See, friends, there have been minor changes into the program management examination content outline, and I'm sure everybody know what is examination content outline. There haven't been any major changes. The 5 domains only, there are some naming have been better aligned to the standards. Of course, still there are some maybe typo error, if we can say, because the examination content outlines talks about benefit alignments as a domain, whereas the standard for program management talks about the benefit management as a domain. So there are still some misalignment, which I have noticed in my first review of standard exam content outline as well as the application process. So friends, uh, if I tell you what in terms of percentage, how much changes has gone into examination content outline, then I will say only 5%, not more than that. The same 72 tasks are still there. Still there are 11 tasks from strategic alignment. Still there are 44 tasks in program lifecycle domain. Still there are 8 tasks in benefit management domain. Still there are 7 tasks in stakeholder engagement domain. And still there are 11 tasks in program governance domain. So if you see the number of tasks and each task description, nothing has been changed, or there have been minor changes or minor adjustment which are really good. So if you have referred the examination content outline, it's remained the same. Now, if I have to talk about the application process, the PgMP application process, here I could see significant change. Here I could see lot of change there in the application process. And the changes are good. Earlier, everybody had to write experience summaries. of all 5 domains. Now in your application process, you only have to write your experience summaries of 3 domains or principles. What I have seen through some of the collaboration with the people I am personally mentoring and helping them achieve the PgMP certification, what I could see, the 3 aspect of application where you have to write your experience summaries are strategy, governance, and leadership. Okay. So, friends, now you don't have to write all the 5 experience summaries. You will have to only write 3 experience summaries. So the process have been simplified. The other aspect is exactly the same in the application process, but now you'll have to talk about the leadership aspect of your experience to clear your panel review. Now you have to talk about your governance aspect, or the strategy aspect of your program. So this is what I saw in my first review of the application process. Of course, as I also spend more time in standard and in the application process, and as the examination content outline, I'll able to tell you more, and I will to keep sharing more information with this community, especially who is aspiring to be a program management professional certification, and who is practicing program management. So I'm going to tell you the changes and what value that is the new standard can bring for all of us. So that's all, friends. I have, you can reach out to me, send me messages. You can write an email to me, and, about any question related to program management, any, support you need to achieve the program management professional certification. And last 10 years, from last 10 years, I have helped hundreds of global professionals achieve PGMP credentials. In last few weeks also, I have helped at least 8 to 10 people to achieve the PGMP certification, and so on. So I just want to tell you, friends, the new standard is good. The application process has been simplified, and there is no major changes into the examination content outline. But I'm always there for you, to help you, to guide you, to support you in your certification journey. That's all for now, friends. You can send me any messages, so that I can help you in your program management practices and so on. Thank you, and all the best in your program management practices, and have a great day. Thank you.